Good morning, conservatives of Texas. How are you guys doing? Um, Wanted to discuss a couple of things that have occurred in the last few days or so concerning WTAMU and Dr. Windler. I do want to commend him for standing firm, for holding the line in this situation. A lot of folks are going to come out and say that he's one thing or the other, prejudiced, discriminating, whatever the case is. But he's just standing his ground, and I commend him for that. I do want to speak on things that we have seen in times past as conservatives of Texas. This fight has been one that has been constant, one that has been enduring for sure. We've had restaurants hosting drag queen shows and whatnot here in Amarillo and other places across the nation. And, we've made phone calls, we've spoken to folks, and it's interesting because they'll say things such as, well, there's pastors that, are for it, that say that they're okay with it. And I've noticed the pattern in that. Who are these pastors? You'll notice that they're some type of new age church or whatnot. They go and get ordained just so they can be called pastors, but those aren't pastors. Those are worldly new age ordained ministers and whatnot. So whenever these restaurants or these other establishments that are hosting these things tell you those respond in that way, that's just a tactic that these drag folks have implemented to soften the blow. And so it sounds to the restaurant owner or the private establishment okay, and that the community is more open and welcoming to these things. I would just, ask folks to check into who these pastors are. Are they actual pastors from an established church that's been around for more than 10 years? Or is it just some fly-by-night that was created in order to make those types of statements all of a sudden? Another thing is there are some pastors that have been around for some time that do bend the knee because of, they're afraid of lawsuits and whatnot. But I don't want to get it too far in the weeds on that. I would just say as a listener and a person that's paying attention, really exercise your due diligence and do your research on who these folks are that are approving of these behaviors. The number one thing is what does the Word of God say? Not a new translation that just popped up 6 weeks ago. The hard truth. What does Jesus say on the matter? And just get into that. Get into the actual Word. Amarillo College had tryouts here not too long ago for Neon Nebula that was held out at Starlight Ranch. And I attended that. I wanted to go see what was going on there. And I will say that I have correspondence with the president, Dr. Lowry Hart, that I can share with you. I will be sharing those things in the upcoming, hours or days. Just when I get to where I can do that, but I will do it. The thing about these institutions, when it comes to who's pushing the drag shows and whatnot, it's very, very coordinated. It's very elaborate. There's a lot of things that are covertly done behind the scenes that we have noticed, and it's deceptive. It has nothing really to do with what's on the epidermis of of the men that are dressed as women, they're basically just being used. Those folks are the I guess the optics, the energy behind the movement in getting it, I guess, marketed and whatnot. But what happens under the table and covertly under the scenes or behind the scenes are implementations of surveys, administrative items that they then deliver in some ways to school districts and other establishment type of groups or entities within that community. So they try to grab as many people supporting their cause. So when they introduce these factors into the school districts really see the stigma, and they don't want to be a part of being called discriminatory or whatnot. So they bend the knee as well because they're afraid of lawsuits themselves. And so what we've seen is surveys such as asking minors as young as 12 years old what their sexual preferences are. Well, number one, that's already against the law. You're talking to a minor on this survey without parental consent or even speaking to the parents about this survey. And so Amarillo College, they had a survey that was produced on their campus, and we addressed it with Dr. Lowry Hart, and he pretty much sidestepped it. I have the emails to prove this. The funny thing and the irony in the sidestep is, why did he have to sidestep it if it was totally okay? In his opinion, as he wrote, that they're basically open to all facets of folks in any genre, so to speak, but yet they pulled it. So why pull it? Why take it down if everything is all good in the neighborhood? You see how that works. So what had happened was they had a sponsor that, and this is the process. You have sponsors on campus, and they introduce certain items to come to the campus. In this case, it was the Neon Nebula tryouts. And so they did that. But again, like I said before, they bring in these little surveys and whatnot. Next thing you know, these surveys are being attached to our Amarillo Independent School District, Canyon Independent School District, and River Road. Those three schools were mentioned on the survey at the very bottom. Once that happens, guys, once they gather footing, all bets are off. Because once these boxes get checked, as you know, you've heard the nightmare stories, the parents have no access. They feel as, the oligarchs, that the powers that be, once they see that box is checked, I'm not too sure if CPS gets involved, but the authorities get involved. The parents can't say anything if that child says, hey, look, I feel like I want to transition. I don't want to be, this gender anymore. And so that's how it works. It's all done under deceptive practices. And the way I look at it, guys, if you're really proud of who you want to be and say, this is my civil right, then let it be that. Why are you working under the guise of deception at all? Why not just bring that all out in the forefront day one? But they don't. They do it all behind the scenes. So that should be everyone's first red flag, especially for those that are kind of behind it a little bit, saying, hey, just let them do what they want to do. It's a free country. You should be the one that asks the question, well, that's whatever, but why are they doing things deceptively? That should be your first red flag for those that are kind of in the middle. Everyone does deserve in this country the right to assemble, the right to organize and do things. No one's ever said that anyone doesn't have those rights. Me personally, my issue is the deception. What is going on behind the scenes? And like I said, in these surveys, they were asking very personal questions, sexually oriented questions of minors. You can't have that. And so we brought this up to the school, to the Board of Regents at Amarillo College. We were in Dumas, and they give you an opportunity to speak. And this is one thing that, we spoke about. Mr. Barrett, he's a regent. He followed me outside and asked me, well, which group is this? Who are you talking about that's doing this? And it was Smile Big or Big Smile. I can't remember, but one of the names there. And they were the ones that formulated this form. And they were, my curiosity is why I brought it up to the Amarillo College Board of Regents was, how are you guys distributing this? I was curious as to how they were passing this out. I didn't know, because there's no minors on campus at Amarillo College. So they wouldn't be asking their own community of college students those types of questions. There's no 12-year-olds that I know of that go to Amarillo College. And so, and plus, River Road and AISD and CISD aren't on their campus either. So I was just curious as to how and why, what the connection was with Amarillo College. Even more so, the liabilities. We pay taxes for that college to run. And I was just curious about the liability. If one of these folks gets into trouble or whatnot, I was asking the president, Dr. Larry Hart, are we implementing background checks since we're having these types of conversations with minors? And he says they don't do any background checks for anybody that comes on the campus to do whatever. I have the email to show you his language in it. It was kind of a sidestep, but nonetheless, if you're 18 and you're going to college, I get it. But again, the survey was speaking to 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And I have that. I've saved that, and I could present that to whoever may inquire about that survey. Good thing is they took it down. But I want to say that this is bigger than just men dressing as women or an LGBTQ plus situation. You guys need to wake up. You need to understand that you guys are being exploited. You guys are being used for your energy, for your thrust in the motion that you have over your personal preservation of your rights. I get it. You want to stand for your rights. I understand. But know this, that you're being used. You're being exploited by these nefarious groups that are just using you as the dividers. And that's not right. You shouldn't be used in that manner. Really look at who these leaders are. There's things like there's organizations such as the Zen Education Project. There's Howard Zen, and there's George Soros. There's those types. Those names get lumped into this whole conspiracy, whatever. Hey, listen, just do the research. Find the connectors as to who's funding these things, and then you'll see that the data proves exactly what I'm saying. You are being used. You're being exploited. You are the energy that is being used as a kamikaze, so to speak, to break down the initial wall. And they're getting restless. I'm noticing that they're getting restless. Before, they used to be a little sniper-esque, if you will, but I see that they're stepping on their own traps because the anxiety is kicking in. They're getting a little anxious. But guys, really, really look into who's behind these groups locally also. I mean, we have groups here that have formed PACs that endorse these folks, they would like for them to be elected at city council levels and whatnot. They have the right to run and get the votes, but whenever you have folks that are endorsing them that are supposed to also be a conservative type of group, that's when you know that the gig is up. It's getting very, very hard for them to hide. We have Ollie Ramos that was endorsed by PACs here that everyone thought that they were pretty conservative. Go look into that. She's the founder of Sodom Amarillo. She's behind, she's not behind, but she's a component to all these types of LGBTQ and trans and all this and that that are being devised to destroy and divide. And again, I want to really push the info on the LGBT and these drag folks. They're just going on emotion. They're running on that. I'm not saying that they're behind the division themselves. What I'm saying is the folks that are pushing them to the forefront are. So let me be clear on that. I'm sure that a lot of these folks are good people, but they're being deceived themselves into being thrusted out to the forefront because these other folks that are behind it, they're such cowards. They would rather let these grunts, if you will, take the hit. But as a Christian and as a believer, this is the battleground. So we got to step up as well. But we need to make sure that we're praying in the Spirit to the degree that we know the strategies, that we are actually praying with these folks. The Bible says the ways of the wicked lay path for the righteous. And as believers, we should meet these people where they're at in prayer and hope that we can pray with them and get them to the mentality of, yes, I think you're right, I am being used. And then that way they can be redeemed and they could join in this fight with us against the true powers that be, which we know that even behind the Marxist agenda is Satan himself. He was the first Marxist, if you will, first communist. But nonetheless, that's in a whole other video. Love you guys. And Conservatives of Texas established 2019. We've been doing a lot of work in this area. We've been doing a lot of work in all kinds of areas, but this is one that since it's coming up now at WTMU, I wanted to speak on a little bit. If you want to reach out to me, we can sit down together. I can show you the emails. I can show you the correspondence. I have it from a very, very respected source that at that Neon Nebula tryout talent show at Amarillo College, they told me that one of the Board of Regents was actually picked to be a judge for the actual show at Starlight Ranch, but unfortunately he had come down with some type of illness, so he couldn't be the judge. But if that wouldn't have happened, the Board of Regents of our very own community college was going to have one of their own regents be a judge at a drag show. So I can get that evidence for you and that proof, I'm sure. I do have the emails of the email addresses of the folks where I can grab that from. But God bless. We'll be heading out there at 11 o'clock today to stand for the rights of right, truth, and also to hopefully reach out to some of these folks that are out there. Maybe they can receive Christ. Hey, in Jesus' mighty name I pray. I'll lift you guys up. Bye.